The gleaming hull of the Earth vessel, Horizon, pierced through the violet clouds of Kepler 186f, its descent marked by trails of atmospheric ionization. Captain James Hawthorne stood at the bridge, his weathered hands steady on the control panel as he guided the ship toward the planet's surface. After 6 months of interstellar travel, humanity's first deep space expedition was about to make history. Atmospheric readings stable, Captain, Lieutenant Reina Martinez called from her station, her dark eyes fixed on the scrolling data. Oxygen levels at 23%, slightly higher than Earth normal. The landing zone came into view, a vast plateau surrounded by crystalline formations that sparkled under the light of the red dwarf star. As the ship's landing gear deployed, none of the crew could have predicted how this routine exploration would change the course of human history. The first sign that they weren't alone came 3 days after landing. The science team had been setting up their research station when their instruments detected unusual energy signatures emanating from beneath the crystalline formations. Dr. Victor Chen, the team's xenobiologist, was the first to spot them: tall, elegant beings with bioluminescent patterns flowing across their silvery skin. The Lyrians, as they called themselves, emerged from hidden entrances in the crystal structures. Their leader, High Scholar Nyara, approached the human expedition with a grace that seemed to defy gravity. Her translator device, far more advanced than anything humans had developed, converted her melodic language into perfect English. "Welcome, travelers from Earth," she said, her voice carrying both warmth and authority. "We have been watching your approach since you entered our star system." Captain Hawthorne stepped forward, maintaining his composure despite his racing heart. "We come in peace," he said, using the traditional greeting that had once seemed cliché in old science fiction movies, but now felt entirely appropriate. "I am Captain James Hawthorne of the Earth science vessel Horizon." The initial meetings were cordial but tense. The Lyrians revealed they had been studying humanity for decades through their long-range observation posts. They had watched as humans developed space travel, split the atom, and finally achieved faster-than-light travel. Their society, they explained, was built on the pursuit of knowledge and scientific advancement. However, cultural differences quickly became apparent. The Lyrians operated on a consensus-based system that seemed maddeningly slow to the humans, while the Earth team's hierarchical command structure appeared rigid and primitive to their hosts. These differences came to a head when Dr. Chen requested permission to study Lyrian biology. "Your species is fascinating," he explained during a diplomatic dinner, his enthusiasm overshadowing his usual reserve. "Your bioluminescence alone could revolutionize our understanding of bioelectricity." High Scholar Nyara's patterns shifted to a deep blue, a sign of concern they would later learn. "We have our own questions about human physiology," she admitted. "But such studies must be approached with great care. In our history, hasty scientific pursuit without ethical consideration has led to catastrophe." The tension in the room was palpable. Captain Hawthorne recognized the familiar dance of two species trying to bridge a gulf of understanding while protecting their own interests. He knew his next words could either build a bridge or create a chasm. "Perhaps," he suggested, setting aside his untouched plate of Lyrian cuisine, "we could begin with something smaller. A joint study of this planet's unique crystal formations. They seem to be important to your people, and they've certainly captured our scientists' interest." Nyara's patterns shifted to a lighter shade approval. "A wise suggestion, Captain. These crystals, which you find so beautiful, are actually living organisms. They form the backbone of our communication network and energy grid." This revelation sparked excited murmurs among the human scientists. The potential for learning from such technology was enormous, but more importantly, it provided a safe common ground for both species to begin working together. As the first week of contact drew to a close, both sides had established preliminary protocols for scientific cooperation. Yet beneath the diplomatic smiles and handshakes lay deeper currents of uncertainty. The humans knew they had stumbled onto something far bigger than their original mission, while the Lyrians debated among themselves about how much of their advanced technology to share. Captain Hawthorne stood at the viewport of the Horizon that night, watching the crystalline structures pulse with mysterious light. Lieutenant Martinez joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee, a luxury they had brought from Earth. "What do you think we've gotten ourselves into, Captain?" she asked, handing him one of the cups. Hawthorne took a thoughtful sip before responding. "The beginning of something remarkable, Lieutenant, or possibly the biggest challenge humanity has ever faced. Either way, there's no going back now." The crystal formations pulsed in agreement, their light reaching up toward the stars that had brought these two species together. 2 weeks into the expedition, the joint research facility began taking shape beneath the towering crystal spires. Human engineering merged with Lyrian bioarchitecture, creating a structure unlike anything either species had built before. The crystalline walls pulsed with living light, responding to the movements and emotions of those within. Dr. Victor Chen worked alongside Lyrian scientist Kara. Their research focused on the mysterious properties of the living crystals. Despite their different approaches to science, they had developed an effective working relationship. While Victor relied on careful measurement and systematic testing, Kara seemed to communicate with the crystals directly through her species' natural bioluminescence. "The crystals respond to conscious thought," Kara explained one morning, her patterns shifting to a teaching frequency, a soft green glow that humans had learned to recognize. "They are not merely conducting energy, they are processing it, much like your neural networks." Victor adjusted his instruments, trying to capture the subtle changes in the crystal's energy signature. "Like a biological quantum computer," he suggested, his eyes lighting up with understanding. "That would explain the computational speeds we've been recording." Their breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a routine experiment, Victor accidentally exposed a crystal sample to his own bioelectric field while Kara was in contact with it. The resulting resonance created a momentary bridge between their minds, a flash of shared consciousness that left both scientists stunned. Captain Hawthorne was immediately called to the laboratory. He found Victor sitting with a dazed expression while Kara's patterns flickered rapidly through various colors. High Scholar Nyara arrived moments later, her usual composed demeanor showing signs of agitation. "This is unprecedented," Nyara declared, her patterns shifting between deep purple and bright gold. "Direct neural connection between our species should not be possible. Our biochemistry is too different." "And yet it happened," Hawthorne said firmly. "The question is, what do we do with this discovery?" The implications were staggering. If humans and Lyrians could achieve direct mental communication, it would revolutionize their ability to understand each other. However, the risks were equally significant. The human crew debated the ethics of such intimate contact with an alien consciousness, while the Lyrians worried about the potential for cultural contamination. Lieutenant Martinez led a security assessment, working closely with the Lyrian Defense Coordinator, Thuron. "We need to establish protocols," she insisted during a joint meeting. "If we can share thoughts, we need to be certain we can also maintain privacy." Thuron's patterns swirled with agreement. "Our history contains instances of forced mental connection being used as a weapon. We cannot risk such abuses occurring between our species." The debate might have continued indefinitely if not for an unexpected crisis. One of the main crystal towers began showing signs of illness, its usual brilliant pulses growing dim and erratic. The Lyrians were deeply concerned. These living crystals were essential to their civilization's infrastructure. Without hesitation, Victor and Kara proposed using their accidental discovery to communicate directly with the ailing crystal. It was dangerous, untested, and went against every cautionary protocol both sides had established. It was also their best chance at understanding what was wrong. Captain Hawthorne found himself facing a difficult decision. "This goes beyond my authority," he admitted during an emergency conference with Earth Command. "But we didn't come all this way to play it safe." After hours of debate, both sides agreed to attempt the connection under carefully controlled conditions. Victor and Kara would link minds, using the crystal's natural conductivity to amplify their shared consciousness enough to diagnose the problem. The procedure was set up in the main research chamber. Medical teams from both species stood by, monitoring vital signs they barely understood. As Victor and Kara placed their hands on the crystal's surface, the chamber filled with a soft, pulsing light. What followed was a journey into unknown territory. Through their shared consciousness, they experienced the crystal's vast neural network. They saw how it connected to others of its kind, forming a living web that spanned the entire plateau. More importantly, they discovered the source of the illness. A subtle resonance frequency from the human ship's engines was disrupting the crystal's natural rhythms. When they emerged from the connection, both scientists were changed. They had glimpsed something profound, not just about the crystals, but about the potential for their species to truly understand each other. "It's like learning a new sense," Victor tried to explain later, struggling to put the experience into words. "We think we know what consciousness is, what intelligence is, but there's so much more." The success of their mission had far-reaching consequences. The human engineers modified their engine frequencies to protect the crystals, while the Lyrians began sharing more of their biotechnological knowledge. More importantly, both species had proof that despite their differences, true understanding was possible. As Captain Hawthorne recorded his log that evening, he reflected on how far they had come from those first tense meetings. "We're no longer just visitors or diplomatic allies," he noted. "We're becoming something new, partners in exploration, both of space and of consciousness itself." In the research lab, the crystals pulsed with renewed vigor, their light a testament to the power of bridging differences through shared discovery and trust. The discovery of mental connection through the crystals opened doors that neither species had anticipated. As spring arrived on Kepler 186f, bringing shimmering auroras that danced across the crystalline landscape, the joint research facility had grown into a sprawling complex of interconnected chambers and laboratories. Dr. Victor Chen and Kara had assembled a team of volunteers from both species to explore the possibilities of crystal-facilitated communication. Each experiment revealed new aspects of both human and Lyrian consciousness, but it was an accidental discovery during a routine medical scan that changed everything. During a joint consciousness session, the medical monitoring equipment detected something extraordinary. The human participant's cellular structure was temporarily adopting properties similar to Lyrian biology. The effect was subtle and temporary, but it suggested possibilities that no one had considered. "It's like our bodies are learning from each other," Dr. Chen explained during an emergency conference with both human and Lyrian leadership. "The crystal network isn't just facilitating communication, it's creating a bridge between our biological systems." High Scholar Nyara's patterns shifted rapidly through shades of blue and gold as she processed this information. This could explain the increasing ease with which humans are able to interface with our technology. Your species is adapting. Captain Hawthorne leaned forward in his chair, his expression grave. "What are the implications? Are we talking about some form of biological transformation?" The question sparked intense debate among both human and Lyrian scientists. The possibility of biological adaptation between species was both exciting and terrifying. It challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of life itself. Lieutenant Martinez, who had been monitoring the security implications, raised another concern. "If this adaptation is possible, we need to consider the potential for unintended consequences. What happens if this effect spreads beyond our control?" The Lyrian Defense Coordinator, Thuron, agreed. His patterns pulsed with warning colors. "Our history speaks of ancient experiments in biological adaptation. Not all ended well." But it was Kara who provided the breakthrough insight. During a late-night research session, she noticed something in the cellular data that everyone else had missed. The adaptation wasn't random. It was following patterns encoded in the crystal network itself. "The crystals aren't just facilitating change," she explained, her patterns glowing with excitement. "They're guiding it, ensuring compatibility while maintaining the essential nature of both species. It's like they've done this before." This revelation led to a frantic investigation of the crystal archives, vast repositories of information stored within the living network. What they found was astonishing. The crystals had indeed guided biological adaptation before, helping ancient species achieve compatibility while preserving their unique characteristics. Dr. Chen spent days analyzing the historical data. "It's like finding out we're part of a grand experiment in evolution," he told Captain Hawthorne. "The crystals might have been placed here deliberately, created by some ancient civilization to facilitate peaceful interaction between different species." The implications were enormous. If the crystal network could guide safe biological adaptation between species, it could revolutionize interstellar diplomacy and cooperation. But it also raised profound questions about the nature of humanity's future among the stars. High Scholar Nyara called a formal gathering of both species leadership. The crystal chamber where they met pulsed with colors that reflected the gravity of the moment. "We stand at a crossroads," she announced, her patterns resolving into the formal configuration of a historical declaration. "Our ancestors may have left us this gift, but we must decide how to use it." Captain Hawthorne rose to address the gathering. "When we left Earth, we were seeking knowledge, resources, and the possibility of peaceful contact with other civilizations. We never imagined finding a way to bridge the biological gap between species. This discovery will change everything, but only if we have the courage to embrace it." The debate lasted for days. Some argued for caution, warning about the risks of tampering with human and Lyrian biology. Others saw it as a natural next step in evolution, a way to ensure peaceful cooperation between different forms of life. In the end, it was agreed to proceed with carefully controlled experiments. Volunteers from both species would work with the crystal network to explore the possibilities of guided adaptation. The process would be slow, methodical, and entirely voluntary. As the research progressed, subtle changes began to appear in the volunteers. Humans developed a limited ability to produce bioluminescent signals, while Lyrians found they could better tolerate the electromagnetic fields produced by human technology. But more importantly, their ability to understand each other grew exponentially. Dr. Chen and Kara led the research, their own partnership serving as a model for human-Lyrian cooperation. Through their work with the crystals, they began to understand that biological compatibility was just the beginning. The real breakthrough was in proving that different species could work together to become something greater than the sum of their parts. "We're not losing who we are," Kara explained to a group of concerned Lyrian elders. "We're growing into who we could be." Her patterns shifted into a complex harmony that reflected both Lyrian tradition and human innovation. As the first phase of controlled adaptation experiments concluded, Captain Hawthorne prepared his report for Earth Command. "We came here looking for new worlds," he wrote, "but we found something far more valuable, a way to ensure that when different species meet among the stars, they have a chance to truly understand each other." The crystal spires pulsed with ancient wisdom and new possibility, their light a beacon for a future where the boundaries between species were not walls, but bridges waiting to be crossed. News of the biological adaptation breakthrough spread rapidly through both human and Lyrian societies, triggering waves of controversy that threatened to tear apart everything they had built. The first signs of trouble came in the form of encrypted transmissions from Earth. Captain Hawthorne stood in his quarters aboard the Horizon, reading the latest dispatch with growing concern. Several influential Earth nations were demanding an immediate halt to the adaptation experiments, citing risks of genetic contamination and loss of human identity. "They're afraid," Lieutenant Martinez observed, reviewing the security briefings, "and fear makes people dangerous." The situation among the Lyrians was equally tense. A conservative faction, led by Elder Vakos, had emerged to challenge High Scholar Nyara's authority. They claimed that allowing humans to access the crystal network threatened thousands of years of Lyrian cultural purity. Dr. Chen and Kara found their research increasingly under scrutiny from both sides. Security protocols became stricter, and several volunteer participants withdrew from the program under pressure from their respective governments. "They don't understand what we're achieving here," Kara said during a private meeting with the research team. Her patterns showed frustration, sharp angles of red and orange cutting through her usual scholarly blue. This isn't about losing our identity, it's about expanding it. The crisis came to a head when Elder Vakos called for a formal assembly of the Lyrian Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from both species, the air thick with tension. The crystals themselves seemed to pulse with anxiety, their usual harmonious rhythms disrupted by the emotional energy in the room. "We have preserved our ways for millennia," Vakos declared, his patterns burning with traditional symbols of warning and resistance. "These experiments threaten everything we have built. The humans are too young, too aggressive. They are not ready for this knowledge." Captain Hawthorne watched as High Scholar Nyara rose to respond, her patterns calm but intense. Before she could speak, however, an alarm blared through the complex. Something was wrong with the crystal network. Dr. Chen's voice came over the communication system, tight with urgency. "The network is destabilizing. The conflicting emotional energies in the chamber are creating a feedback loop in the crystal matrix." The crisis forced both species to act together or face catastrophic failure of the systems that sustained the research base. Teams of humans and Lyrians worked side by side, using their combined understanding of crystal technology and human engineering to stabilize the network. In the midst of the crisis, something unexpected happened. The stress of the situation triggered spontaneous adaptive responses in those who had participated in the experiments. Humans found themselves instinctively understanding Lyrian emotional patterns, while Lyrians developed an intuitive grasp of human technical solutions. Working together, they not only stabilized the crystal network, but achieved a level of integration that their careful experiments hadn't reached. The crisis had proven what the scientists had theorized. Under the right conditions, adaptation could occur naturally and beneficially. As the emergency subsided, Elder Vakos stood in stunned silence, watching humans and Lyrians coordinate with unprecedented efficiency. High Scholar Nyara approached him, her patterns now showing the complex harmonies of victory and vindication. "Do you see now?" she asked. "This is not about losing who we are, it's about becoming more than we were together." The demonstration of successful cooperation during crisis changed the political landscape. Earth governments, receiving data on how the adapted individuals had helped prevent a catastrophic system failure, began to reconsider their opposition. Captain Hawthorne seized the moment to address both human and Lyrian authorities. "What we've witnessed today isn't just about survival. It's proof that our species can achieve things together that neither could manage alone. Yes, there are risks, but the greater risk would be turning away from this opportunity." Dr. Chen and Kara presented new research showing how the crystal network actually protected both species' core genetic identity while facilitating beneficial adaptations. The process wasn't about changing what they were, but about adding new capabilities that enhanced their natural strengths. "The crystals don't force change," Dr. Chen explained to a joint scientific committee. "They create possibilities. What we do with those possibilities is up to us." Gradually, opposition began to fade. The success in handling the crisis had demonstrated the practical benefits of human-Lyrian cooperation. More importantly, it showed that adaptation didn't mean losing cultural identity. It meant gaining new ways to express it. Lieutenant Martinez, overseeing security for a new round of approved experiments, smiled as she watched human and Lyrian scientists working together. "Sometimes," she told Captain Hawthorne, "you have to face losing everything to realize what you might gain." The crystal spires pulsed with renewed strength, their light now carrying patterns that were neither purely human nor purely Lyrian, but something new, a harmony of both, singing a song of possibility that reached out toward the stars. 1 year after the first contact between humans and Lyrians, the research base had evolved into something unprecedented in the history of either species. The crystalline structures now incorporated both human and Lyrian architectural styles, creating a seamless blend of organic technology and innovative engineering that reflected their growing partnership. In the main research chamber, Dr. Victor Chen and Kara stood before a holographic display showing the latest results from their adaptation program. Around them, other human Lyrian research teams worked in comfortable synchronization, their differences now serving as strengths rather than barriers. The crystal network has adapted along with us, Kara observed, her patterns showing the complex harmonies that had become characteristic of those involved in the program. It's learning from our cooperation, becoming more efficient at facilitating communication between our species. The advances they had made went far beyond their initial discoveries. The carefully controlled adaptation process had led to developments that neither species had anticipated. Humans had developed an enhanced ability to process complex multidimensional information, while Lyrians had gained new insights into innovative problem-solving from their human colleagues. Captain Hawthorne, entering the chamber with High Scholar Nyara, carried news that would change everything again. Earth Command has approved the expansion of the program, he announced. They're sending 3 more ships, along with representatives from every major space-faring nation. Nyara's patterns shifted to display formal symbols of agreement. The Lyrian Council has also reached a decision. We are prepared to share our crystal technology with humanity under the condition that we continue to develop it together. The announcement sparked excitement throughout the base, but the real breakthrough came when Lieutenant Martinez and Thuron presented their joint security assessment. Their work had revealed something extraordinary about the crystal network's potential. The crystals don't just facilitate communication and adaptation between our species, Martinez explained. They can be used to create stable wormholes, shortcuts through space-time that could revolutionize interstellar travel. The implications were staggering. Together, humans and Lyrians could establish a network of crystal-powered transportation hubs, connecting distant star systems in ways neither species could achieve alone. It was the beginning of a new era of exploration and cooperation. Dr. Chen and Kara led the development of the first prototype portal, their combined understanding of crystal technology and human physics making possible what had once seemed like science fiction. The successful test of the system marked a turning point in both species' history. "This is what we were meant to find here," Captain Hawthorne said during the ceremony marking the portal's activation. "Not just new technology or biological adaptation, but a way to move forward together into the unknown." The original members of the Horizon's crew, who had first set foot on this alien world with uncertainty and caution, now stood as examples of what cooperation between species could achieve. They had maintained their humanity while gaining new perspectives, just as the Lyrians had preserved their cultural identity while embracing change. High Scholar Nyara, addressing a joint assembly of human and Lyrian leaders, captured the spirit of their achievement. "The ancient ones who created the crystal network saw further than we knew. They understood that the future of life in our galaxy depends not on the triumph of one species over others, but on our ability to grow together." As the first wave of new human ships entered orbit around Kepler 186f, preparations were already underway for the next phase of exploration. Joint human-Lyrian crews would venture out to other star systems, seeking new civilizations and expanding the crystal network across the galaxy. Dr. Chen found himself reflecting on how far they had come as he watched a group of new arrivals being introduced to the base. Among them were scientists, engineers, and explorers from both species, all eager to be part of this grand experiment in cooperation. "We haven't just built a bridge between our species," he told Kara as they observed the newcomers. "We've created a template for how different forms of life can come together, learn from each other, and become something greater than either could be alone." Lieutenant Martinez, overseeing security for the expanded facility, had developed her own insights. "The real adaptation wasn't biological," she noted. "It was in how we think about ourselves and our place in the universe." The crystal spires that had once seemed alien and mysterious now pulsed with the combined achievements of both species. Their light carried messages of discovery, cooperation, and possibility to the stars above. In their glow, humans and Lyrians worked together, planning expeditions to distant worlds and preparing to meet whatever new wonders awaited them in the vast expanse of space. Captain Hawthorne, standing at his familiar viewport aboard the Horizon, watched as the first joint human-Lyrian expedition prepared to depart through the crystal portal. The ship they had designed together incorporated the best of both species' technology, a tangible symbol of what they had achieved. "We came looking for new worlds," he recorded in his final log entry as the Horizon's captain, "but we found something far more valuable, a way forward together. The real journey is just beginning." The crystal portal activated, its swirling energy field reflecting both species' achievements. As the expedition ship passed through, it carried with it the hopes and dreams of two civilizations that had learned the greatest discovery of all, that the future belongs not to those who stand alone, but to those who dare to reach across the divide and build something new together.